And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim Director at WEIU TV and Radio, and we're going to be talking with the folks from Hope of East Central Illinois today. We have Executive Director Kelly Hardy.
Hi.
And Director of,
Direct Services Coordinator.
Direct Services Coordinator. I just asked 8 seconds ago, and I forgot it. Angie, making a return visit.
Good
so
morning.
good to see Angie. Thanks for everything you do. And Kelly, first time on WEIU Radio, so thank you.
Thank you.
So it worked out pretty good when we talked about a month ago at Kids Day that I didn't, at that time I didn't realize that you guys have an event this week. So why don't we start off with that,
We do.
about what's happening this week on, I believe, is it Wednesday?
It's
or
Thursday.
Thursday night. Go ahead.
So we have our annual candlelight vigil, which is one of my probably the closest one to my heart. This is a night when we come together and we mourn victims who've been lost to domestic violence. We honor those who are surviving, those that we've lost. It's a really powerful night. We have the Clothesline Project set up all around the pavilion at Reynolds Park in Charleston here. I'm sorry, at Morton Park. The Reynolds Pavilion. It's catching, apparently.
Yes, I understand. Blame it on me. It's fine. I'm good.
So we have the Clothesline Project set up around there. Mother Lode will play from 6:30 to 7, and then at 7, we'll open the floor up to speakers. We get a lot of people who come, who share their stories, who share poetry, who talk about family members, loved ones that they've lost. It's a really powerful thing, very meaningful. And then we will have the candle lighting. And what we've done last year, what we started is reading off the names of people that we've lost in this area from domestic violence. We've done some research, and not a lot of research is what's really scary, and have come up with, I believe it's 40 names.
Wow.
Going back to 1968. And so we don't want to add to it, but we do want to make sure that we don't leave anyone out. So, of course, if the public would like to call us and have a loved one or friend's name read, they're welcome to call me.
Okay. That's this Thursday. The time, what time can...
People can start coming. Like I said, Mother Lode's plays from 6:30 to 7, and then from generally 7 to 8, we'll have the speakers and the candlelight part, that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit more towards the show, but I wanted to hit that off because I know that's a big event, and it just happened to be that you were coming in today, and so that'll be Thursday here in Charleston.
It was perfect timing.
Yeah. Sometimes things do work out.
They do.
Now, Kelly, you're the new, basically, executive director there. So let's talk a little bit about you. I'll put you on the spot. Tell us about your background and why you chose to become part of Hope of East Central Illinois.
Sure. Well, I'm from the Charleston area. I grew up in Charleston. I went to Eastern. I'm an alumni.
All right.
I worked for Big Brothers Big Sisters for 12 years. I finished my internship and then was lucky enough to get a position part-time, and that developed into a full-time position and eventually the executive director. And after being there for 12 years, once Althea Pendergast I retired from Hope, I thought that it was a good opportunity to kind of expand my horizons a little bit and join the Hope team, and I believed in the mission of Hope and everything that they do. And I thought maybe it was time for somebody else to have a chance at Big Brothers too. It kind of worked out for both organizations, I think, to have.
It's nice to have probably somebody from the area,
it's
not
wonderful. It's wonderful. Kelly was a board member and a volunteer before coming to Hope, and we're so grateful she's there.
Well,
She's just amazing and wonderful, and I can't say enough nice things about her.
Okay. Well, we can try later.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I could go out on.
Now let's go for the novice out there, brand new, who has no idea really what Hope of East Central Illinois is. Talk about your purpose, a little bit of history, and the mission of what you both do, and you can go back and forth however you need to.
Sure. Our mission is to help empower people to live violence-free lives through the provisions of housing, outreach, prevention, and education. Those are the 4 big things that we like to try to concentrate on. And so we're what's called a comprehensive domestic violence agency, which means we provide all the services that we possibly can. We have our 24-hour crisis line, our emergency shelter, transitional housing, full children's program, legal advocacy, counseling for adults and children, volunteers, internships, community outreach, you name it, we try to do it. And all of our services are completely free and completely confidential.
Okay.
Hope was started in, what did we say,
I think it was 1979.
79.
If Bonnie Buckley's listening, she would know for sure.
But it was started by a lady who had experienced domestic violence in her own life and knew that there an opportunity existed to help further other people as they go through their journey exiting domestic violence. And she worked with an Eastern professor, Dr. Jackson, I think was her name, to develop the Coalition Against Domestic Violence. So we've been serving the community for, I think, just under 40 years.
And Hope of East Central Illinois used to be smaller, but now you're actually serving a bigger area, correct?
Well, we've been serving 7 counties for, most of the time.
Okay, I thought it was, okay.
That we've been together. And of course, agencies like ours kind of depend on grants and donations and that kind of thing. So over the years, sometimes we get bigger and then we lose money and we get smaller. And so yeah, it's a struggle, but it's a struggle that we feel is very important to get out there and keep doing.
Oh, you do wonderful work.
Thank you.
When you think about, what got you both involved and where you are now, but do you have numbers about in the Coles County or the 7-county area that talk about how many victims of domestic violence there are in the area or annually? So could you throw some of those out there just so people have an idea of what we're talking about?
Well, first of all, I always want to say that I got into this because I was a client at Hope 26 years ago, and that's why I believe in the program. I don't believe that I would be here, certainly not as healthy and happy as I am today if it weren't for this program. I believe in it 100%. It really did change my life. And so for me, being able to have the honor of then turning around and working with other survivors too is just an amazing thing. We get asked a lot, well, does domestic violence really happen around here? It absolutely does. We generally see somewhere between 500 and 700 clients per year. Coles County is usually our busiest, but Edgar, Cumberland, trying to think of all 7, Coles, Clark, Cumberland, Edgar, Moultrie, Shelby, and Douglas. We also have a new satellite office in the Douglas County area, which is really exciting because we've been able to get in there and have someone literally on the ground, every day helping with those situations. So
500 to 700.
Yeah.
Wow, there's a lot more than I thought you were going to say, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you think about, and Coles County is your busiest, so that's really where our heart is here at, in terms of the area we serve, we both serve about the same areas. Now let's talk about some of the different things that you kind of talked about a little bit, go into some more detail. If someone knows something, there's the 24-hour crisis hotline is obviously is kind of the starting point. Talk about, what someone needs to do if they are going to call that and what happens afterwards.
Okay. One of the things that we always say is yes, we have many, many clients, people who are survivors who are in an abusive situation call us, but we also have loved ones who say, my sister, my best friend, my cousin, my mom, whoever it is in this abusive situation. How do I help? We're happy to help with both of those phone calls. It's not just for survivors, but it's also for those family members, so those loved ones, those friends, those bosses, whoever it is who wants to get involved. And that's really it, is giving our crisis line a call and deciding from there which services are appropriate. We're what's called a client-centered agency, and so the clients get to choose what they want. Maybe they just want to call the hotline, not give us our name, be anonymous. That's fine. Maybe they want to come in for counseling. Maybe they need shelter. Maybe they need an order of protection, which we're allowed under Illinois state law to be able to help with. Maybe they want all of those things. So they get to kind of pick and choose what it is that they need.
That's neat. Well, it's not neat, but it's neat.
It is. It is. And I think one of the things that's really important to know is that if someone calls our crisis line, we're not going to try to talk them into doing anything. We're just there to help.
And some people just need to listen.
That's all they need.
It's just the listening, and then you go from there.
Exactly. So it's just in offering options, talking about what different services we have, what their, what provisions are there under the Illinois Domestic Violence Act. Sometimes it's as simple as that, but people do not have to give us their name. They can call, they can be anonymous, and we're not going to try to talk them into anything that they don't want to do. It's their choice.
And then I think we talked about the housing program. You said there's temporary housing, and I know these are very private, so we have to be careful what we say.
Sure.
But the fact that if someone's in an abusive situation, they can seek shelter via you, and depending on which avenue they take, that's how it happens. So talk us through what you can say about your housing program.
Okay, so we have the emergency domestic violence shelter, which is a safe house where victims and their children can go. We're very lucky. We have an amazing shelter manager who makes it very much a home environment environment, it doesn't look as institutionalized as I think people have in their minds.
Yeah, the mind, yeah.
Yeah. I think we kind of think of those, a big room with a bunch of cots in it. And if you came into ours, you probably wouldn't know that it's a shelter. And so people can come in and stay for up to 45 days. They don't have to stay for 45 days. They can stay up to that time. And then when there are those situations where there's a significant safety risk, something, some added circumstances, then we can extend that time if need be. Right now, we only have 7 units of transitional housing. I wish that we had more. We certainly need it in this area. But once they go into that can be up to 2 years. We assist them with parenting, budgeting, whatever life skills they need to help them get back on their feet. I'm a big one for pushing educational programs, certificate programs, degrees, whatever it is, because we know that education increases people's income. And so we really hope that they have the time to be able to at least start that journey. So.
And Kelly, I'll let you answer this if you can. The other victim of this is the children in the homes of domestic violence. So can you talk about what the children's advocacy programs do and how you talk to the children and go from there, please?
Sure. So we do individualized children's counseling. So children who have been victims of or witnessed domestic violence are able to come. They can talk to our children's advocates. We also have an after-school program and a summer program where the children come and they have something to do that's constructive. They help with homework. They do an activity. They just have time to be kids and don't have to worry about the pressures of life, living in certain circumstances that add stress with domestic violence or having experienced that.
Do you think those, have you noticed, or maybe either of you noticed, the children of domestic violence, do they do worse in school than quote unquote normal?
I think that's the statistics show that they have a lot more stress involved. So
I'd imagine so. Yeah.
Having the ability to have a quiet space to do homework, to study, to have that support system there. They have obviously a loving parent, someone to take care of them who can get them out of that at whatever point is safe for them to leave. But the trauma that they see and that they witness affects their ability to learn, I think, at a rate close to their peers.
Probably process it, yeah.
And
one of the things you just said, I think, is we have had Angie on over the years, is the decision to actually leave is probably the toughest decision, and it seems like it would be easy from the outside person, but there's so much more required. So I know you don't convince people to leave, but you kind of guide them into the best case scenario for them. But talk about when somebody has decided to leave an abusive situation, what they should do, what they should bring with them, and what if they can, and take us through that process if you would. I know that's a difficult one.
It is. Safety planning is one of the most important things when you're looking at leaving an abusive situation. And here it is. At the end of the day, I would never tell someone to leave. Our agency would never tell someone to leave simply because it may not be safe. And the last thing we want is to tell someone, oh, you need to leave this, and then they get hurt or murdered. Again, 3 women a day are killed in the United States at the hands of their abusers, and the majority of them are killed while they're leaving and after they've left. It's actually the most dangerous time. So we talk a lot about safety planning. Where's a safe place to go? What are the important papers that you can set aside? For instance, one of the things that we might suggest is having maybe a pack, like a bag or something like that with birth certificates, marriage certificates, bank information, leases, any of that really important paperwork, and leave it with a friend or a relative or, someone that you can trust. Keys to the car, keys to the house, whatever it is. So we suggest that. Medications. What we see very often is that abusers will actually withhold medication as a form of controlling the victim. And so if you are on, insulin, for instance, and you can't get another refill of your insulin for, 25 days, and somebody has your insulin, you're probably going to do what they need you to do so that you live. That's, at the end of the day, that's all there is to it. And so we talk a lot about those things, about giving code names to kids, code words, so that, if anybody tries to pick you up, they have to have this code word before, they're allowed to. Or talking with friends and family members. If I am on the phone with you and I use this code word, you'll know that means call the police, that kind of thing. So we do some pretty in-depth safety planning around trying to leave. Okay. At the end of the day, though, one of the things I would encourage people is to listen to survivors, listen to victims. They know their situation better than anybody else. You know, it would be really easy for me to walk in this room and tell you what you should do with your life, right? Because we all know best. We all
Probably
know
would
best.
help me, but that's okay.
Right. But at the end of the day, I'm not the expert in your life.
Yep.
You are the expert in your life.
Do you mind me asking a personal question?
Absolutely.
When you decided to leave or
Yeah.
escape your situation, when did you know it was just like I got to get out of here?
Actually, I remember this very well. I was at, I worked at University Police Department actually at the time. Hello.
They were just here a couple of weeks
were
ago.
they? Yeah. And I remember the O.J. Simpson case had come out, and I remember hearing on the radio, I think it was, a 911 tape that had been released, and she was calling 911, and in the background he was saying, you know, just all these things, and I remember thinking that's exactly the kind of stuff that my ex-husband says with the same you know, tone, and I thought I have to get out of this, and it still took me a while. It still took me a while to get out, but I thought, you know, this is something I've got to start doing because, you know, one of these days my family's going to wake up and I'm going to be the headline. So it was a really scary thing. So that was when, but again, it
So
took
something
quite a
good
while.
came out of the OJ trial. we could say.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah, it's something that it took a long time. It wasn't something that happened
Yeah.
that day. It took a long time, and
But that kind of sparked it. Huh?
Oh yeah, I had a huge support system too. I mean, I had a really good support system in my family, in my friends. They were never judgmental. They never blamed me. They were there for me no matter what, and that makes all the difference in the world. We see that over and over again. For someone who has a good support system, it's so much easier to get out.
Yeah, and we'll talk maybe about the ones who don't in here in a little bit. When do either of you know that you need to get the police or the authorities involved? Is there something? Is there a trigger that you know? I know that's a tough situation
It is,
because
it
you're
is, yeah.
as an advocacy agency, it's tough. But when do you just know we have to get a police over there now, or that you know it's emergency level?
Well, for us, you mean, when would we call? Okay, so we, generally speaking, would not ever do that.
Okay.
Except, you know, the one exception to confidentiality, or one of the very few, is imminent risk. So if I'm on the hotline with a client and I hear something that makes me think that she is at imminent risk of harm, then I have to call, you know, paramedics, police, you know, whoever it is. But it has to be a situation where it's imminent risk. In that moment, somebody's going to get hurt if I don't do this.
Okay.
So.
I just wondered. Now go back to what I was asking you before. Actually, I'm jumping around a little bit,
that's
but
okay.
the people that, you know, like you were in a great situation. You had a support staff. You had friends, family here in Charleston. But what about the girl or the lady? We shouldn't always say it could be a guy, I guess, in some instances. But
Yeah.
the person who doesn't have the support system, they don't have their stuff packed, they don't have ways to get anything. You know, what hope do they have to try to get out or to make themselves in a better situation?
Well, hopefully they can call us, first of all, because we would love to have the chance to be their support system. You know, that's kind of what we wake up every morning hoping to do is
Yeah.
be their support system. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, I think that support group is so important. And generally speaking, support groups are for when, you know, you've left that situation simply because of dangers.
Yeah.
You know, it is something we have to be careful about, but that is so important. That can build up a support system that of people that truly understand, that have been in very similar situations, and can provide that very peer-led support to each other. You know, there are a lot of good internet sites, the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, the National Network to End Domestic Violence are really great resources out there for someone who may not be able to call. We've got our Facebook page, you know, up and running, and have for a long time, and there have been some times where people who aren't able to access a phone
Message you.
can get in touch with us over the Facebook page. So
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
It is, and then the October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month too.
It
So
is.
another thing
It
that we
is.
just lucked
Yes.
into as
Yes.
this day. So
It's
there's all
perfect.
kinds of information being presented out there right now. So when you think about, you know, domestic violence, a lot of people think physical abuse, but there's also mental abuse, and
Yeah.
that maybe is the toughest one, and sometimes the toughest one to prove. Even
is.
Talk about mental abuse and maybe the signs and information on that. Either of you can. I keep looking at her, Angie, because
She's still the expert. I haven't quite
Okay.
absorbed
I'm not
everything
leaving you
yet.
out, I promise.
No, it's fine.
Well, and I do tend to talk a lot. So.
It works out well.
You know, emotional abuse is that really hard one, because obviously a lot of times emotional abuse is not illegal, and it is something that's very hard to prove. But I'll tell you something. I said this myself, and I've heard other clients say it. Oh gosh, today I wish you would have just hit me instead. It's not because we want to be hit. It's because that emotional abuse is just devastating.
Draining
That's the
effort,
thing.
yeah.
It is. It's draining. That is the thing that tears at your soul, and that's the thing that lays scars more than anything else. Is just how devastating that is to have someone consistently giving you those mind games and telling you these horrible things about yourself and giving you this other reality that really your safety kind of depends on buying into what this person says. It's devastating. It really is.
What are some other signs that there's abuse in a family that people can, maybe friends, family, or even neighbors could listen and or look for?
Sure. One thing that we look for a lot is if you have a couple where one person is answering for the other person, talking over them, not really giving them a voice. That's always a big warning sign for us. Certainly, we look for bruises, we look for physical injuries, but that's ordinarily not the first sign. And honestly, usually once those bruises start showing up, it's kind of at a dangerous level. There's been a lot of significant abuse because abusers generally try to hide what they're doing. They don't want other people to know. We look at changes in behavior. We look at, for instance, if you're someone who dresses up a lot and maybe wears makeup or whatever it is, and then suddenly you start wearing very different clothing and conducting your appearance in a very different manner, that might be something to pay attention to. If you used to go a lot of places with friends, if you used to, be a very active person, and then suddenly you're not. If the phone is blowing up constantly from, the partner saying, "Where are you? What are you doing?" That kind of thing. Those are the things that we really want to look at.
Okay. Interesting. Now talk a little bit about how Hope is funded, Kelly, and,
Sure.
and maybe some of the other, how you're supported, and are there any needs for volunteers right now? And we'll let her rest for just a second. We'll let you kind of talk about the business side of it.
Sure. So we do receive state and federal funding, but we also receive donations from the community, and we hold fundraisers, and we accept donations that are goods and services that we can then give to our clients that they may not have when they come to shelter or come to see us. A lot of times people are only able to leave with whatever they have, so they may come with just a suitcase and have to leave all of their items at home. So when they're ready to start out fresh in a new home, it's nice to be able to give them pots and pans, just everyday
life
household
items. Yeah, that makes sense.
That then they can use. But we do receive funding from the Violence Against Victims of Crime Act. I'm sorry,
Okay.
and then the Office of federal and state sources. I don't know.
They
I haven't
always have
quite
weird
mastered
names
that
like
either.
that.
But yeah,
All the acronyms can get a little
they
difficult.
do. They do.
And so you have your event this Thursday. We'll touch base on that again. It's out at Morton Park. It's the vigil. And you said, do you think since 1960 something there's been 72?
Go ahead. Oh, I'm
No.
sorry, 1968.
68.
Yes.
There's been
I believe
40,
is where we went back.
40, at least
Yep.
40 victims or 40 deaths attributed to domestic violence in the Coles County area.
Oh no, that's in our surrounding areas.
Yeah,
too. We've
Coles
got
County.
a lot
I mean,
of,
the 7 county area, which still is 40.
It's huge.
Is,
yeah.
It's
And there are more. That's the thing. Newspapers, the media in general don't always know what to call it, and so you see a lot of headlines that say murder-suicide or crime of passion or something like that when it's really domestic
Well, I
homicide.
remember, what was the movie that came out that was one of the, I remember growing up, and that was like the first one time you'd heard about it.
The Burning Bed.
The Burning Bed,
Yeah,
with Farrah
no,
Fawcett.
Farrah
Thank
Fawcett.
you.
Yeah.
Other than that,
Yep.
before that, it was just really was just called a murder.
Yeah,
So you don't,
exactly.
and that was like, I think early 80s, if my brain recalls
Yep.
that. So that's, it's interesting that you said that. So there's 40 names out there. So, and do you know when was the last, I hate to be morbid, but when was the last one? Is there any good news on that? Has it been a while? Or
The last domestic homicide, I believe, in Coles County specifically, was Gina Giberson.
Okay.
Which was difficult. I knew Gina because I
Yeah.
went to school with her. She, we were just a few years
Figures I
apart
bring
in
up
age.
bad luck.
Right. And so it's
That was a few years
devastating
ago at
thing.
least,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
That was
Okay.
that's that devastating thing. And again, these are the things that we know about because we don't always, hear the backstory. Then we don't always know if this is what's going on in that case. So.
And you're also going to have a Christmas event fundraiser. Talk about that if you would both.
Oh, the happy thing! Oh my gosh.
We should end with some happy. We got about
should-
3.5 minutes to go.
We should. So this is my absolute favorite thing of the whole year. Is the
Besides doing
Christmas-
this show, you mean?
Yes, besides coming and talking to you. The Christmas/holiday program is a time because our clients face a lot of safety issues, they're not always able to go out to One Stop Community Christmas or other programs because getting their information out there can be kind of difficult. And so for those clients who can't, we have our own internal in-house Christmas program. People can adopt our clients. They can adopt individuals, children, adults. They can adopt a family. They can just donate a bunch of random gifts, toys, adult stuff. It's so much fun. But we make sure that they actually have Christmas right down to stockings and the whole 9 yards. It is so incredibly fun. And people really come together. They really care. Our community, we are so incredibly fortunate to live in this area. It's just amazing how people come together and help us with this. They give us candy for the stockings. They give us the gifts. They adopt people. They get us wrapping paper. I mean, just a million different ways to help. And we call them Santas. So during the entire month of December, the entire staff at Hope has to call me Elf Angie. I'm Elf Angie.
She has a little hat and everything.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, we have several other staff members who are also elves. And we're elves for the Santa Clauses in our community who come together and make this an amazing thing. I have to tell you the story if I have time.
Yep.
A few years ago, we had a family that was coming in out of state, and we knew they were coming in, but we thought it was going to be after Christmas. Well, a very serious incident happened, and they had to flee on Christmas morning.
Oh, man.
Before these kids had had Christmas, I mean, there was that they had to flee at, I don't know, it's like 2 a.m. or something. And so they were traveling all day on Christmas Day. So I had the opportunity to talk to the mom and get all the information about the kids and her and everything else. So when they walked into our shelter the day after Christmas, December 26th, when they walk in, Santa had visited, and the entire, tree was still there. All their presents were underneath it, as if Santa had known that they were there and came.
That's
and these
awesome.
kids were so overjoyed. Like it's one of my favorite memories of Hope, just how horrible Christmas Day had been for them, and then to walk into our shelter and be
Yeah.
welcomed with that.
Well, and
So,
that's
yeah.
only possible from the community.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. Yeah, it's just amazing.
So we have a minute left. So real quickly, if anybody needs to, make a donation, become a volunteer, contact either of you. Give them
Yes.
your website or phone or whatever you want to do.
Our website is hope-eci.org. Thank you.
Very good. Work
I'm
together. I
not,
like
thank you, Kelly. I'm not great with the technology stuff. Our crisis line is 1-888-345-3990. And then our office number is 348-5931. And we welcome anyone, survivors, to reach out for help. People who want to help survivors, reach out to us, and anybody that wants to be a Santa.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming in so much today. Nice to meet you, Kelly.
Yes, you too.
And Angie, the stories you tell are always great.
Thank you.
I look forward to hearing them, even though some of them you don't want to hear, but I think it's important to get the word out.
Yes.
And you guys do what you do, I couldn't do, and you're to be commended for the work you do in this community.
you.
So
Thank
you, and have a great holiday season.
Thank
We're getting
you.
close to that,
Yeah,
aren't we?
we really are.
So everybody have a great day. This is Hit Mix.
Good music is hard to find, but we're glad that you found Hit Mix 88.9 WEIU, where you can listen to your favorite